Everybody's searching for something in the dark. We tried to fill the silence with everything we could, but nothing ever fixed it, nothing ever stood. Then a voice cut through the noise. I love the world in every step. God so loved the world, He gave His only Son, so whoever believes in Him won't be undone. No more fear of the grave, no more running from the light. Through the cross we're alive, yeah, we're alive tonight. This love won't fade away. Forever we are saved. We were lost in the static, running from the truth, but grace came crashing in like a lightning bolt of proof. Not a love we could earn, not a love we deserve, but the kind that saves the world with just one word. He didn't come to condemn us, He came to set us free. God so loved the world, He gave His only Son, so whoever believes in Him won't be undone. No more chains on the hearts, no more shadows in the night. Through the cross we're alive, yeah, we're alive tonight. This love won't fade away. Forever we are saved. Not condemned, not alone. Grace has called us home. Through the cross, through the pain, love has broke the chain. For God so loved the world. For God so loved the world. Gave His only Son. Gave His only Son. Whoever believes, whoever believes. God so loved the world.
What's up, chat? That. Let's get into the.
Legends whisper of
There we
unseen
go.
spirits and shadowy figures. Don't forget to subscribe as we step deep into the misty woods to uncover what many refuse to talk about. Let's take a look.
Here, you can never be 100% sure that you are really safe, especially at night.
So, it has become apparent to me that I have moved into a fully haunted house. I'm not sure how many people have seen, but my husband and I have moved our family into his childhood home. He grew up here. His dad grew up here. I'm not sure when his grandmother acquired it, if it was when she had kids or when she was a kid herself. Either way, this house has been in the family for years. So I'm the only adult that is home at night. My husband works night in the coal mines. So I'm the only one here. We have 6 kids. The house is huge. My 3 older kids have their own bedrooms. My husband and I have a master bedroom with a closet and a bathroom. Next to it is our 3 younger sons' bedroom, and it's pretty big itself. And that's the way I like it. I like for my younger ones to be next to my bedroom at night, so that way if they need me, I'm right there. Well, one night my youngest, who's 6, yelled out to me, "Mommy," and I could hear him because, the rooms are right next to each other, and I yelled back, "What's going on?" And he said, "I hear something." And that's when my eyes popped wide open because I realized I heard the sound too, and it was creepy. It sounded like a like full-on ghost noises, okay? Well, of course, you know, he ran into my room, and unfortunately for me, I'm the only adult in the house. I'm terrified. But because I'm a good mom, I have to go ghost hunting. Didn't find anything. There were no tablets on. There were no TVs on. Nobody was awake. I have no explanation for this terrible unbodied sound, like nothing's I don't know. There was nothing, okay? Not only that, once we were moving in and stuff, I would come over to the house while everybody was at school, or you know, my husband was sleeping, and I would clean and put stuff up. Out of the corner of my eye, I see what looks like a child come through the game room, down the stairs, and stand there at the kitchen. And I'm thinking, oh, it's one of my kids, because I can see out of the corner of my eye. You know, it's a person to me. I just can't tell who it is. And I'm cleaning, and I'm like talking, hey, what you doing, bud? And I look up, nobody's there. So I'm like, where did they go? Because I know I saw someone.
Do you think he can clutch?
Not a chance. He's a one-tap wonder. Focus on...
Walk
What
through
the
that. There's
fuck,
nobody
dude?
there. I'm the only one in the house. Okay? Well, a few days after we move in, I take a lamp into my son's room, and my little boy looks at me and says, oh, thank you, Mommy. He says, I feel like somebody's in the corner over there looking at me at night, but they're invisible. And I'm like, you know, I tell him, oh, buddy, there's no one here. You're safe. But internally, I'm saying, oh, my God, don't say that stuff. That scares me. So, okay, well, I'm telling my mother-in-law these stories, okay, about what's happening. And she said, there's always been weird stuff happen there. Her mother-in-law, my husband's grandmother, said that some man killed his son in this house. Okay? Like, and she's not the only one to tell me that story. My husband's sister said, yeah, that someone died in the house. Supposedly they're buried out in the yard under a tree. And I'm like, well, I hope I don't go to dig up a flower bed and
That's creepy.
So, but I post this online on my Facebook account, all this stuff is happening. And then here comes cousins and stuff. Yeah, we used to see shadows and people standing in the corners. And my sister-in-law says, yeah, my TV used to come on and off all the time, and stuff on my dresser would move. And I had another one of my husband's cousins say, yeah, the sink in the one bathroom, in my daughter's bathroom, my daughter's room, who supposedly this person died in, the water used to come on and off all the time on the sink. So, yeah.
Have you ever made a police report of something scary you found out in the woods and you never got a call back with any answers? Because this story takes place back in 2022 when me and a couple of my friends went camping out in the Appalachian Mountains. We decided to plan a camping trip where we were like, okay, we need to get away from society and leave all phones, everything. We just need away from society. Typical us, we went on a camping trip out in the Appalachian Mountains, obviously not in a campground because we didn't want to be near people, and we decided to take a hiking trip that day. As we're wandering through the woods, my buddy finds what he thinks is a deer path, and we're like, oh, okay, an offbeat trail. Typical white people. As we're walking down this trail, my friend oddly finds a shoe. A little kid's shoe that's like literally about this big. Obviously, we're all like, that's kind of weird. So we keep walking, and then next thing you know, we find another shoe. It's the same kind of shoe, about 100 feet away, except oddly, this shoe is a different size. Now, at this point, we're obviously getting really curious, and we keep walking down this trail until we end up in like an open sand field. It almost looked like a random landing strip in the middle of the woods. Us being us, we start exploring until we find somewhere towards the back corner of this field, there's like this broken down little shed. So obviously we go inside this shed, we start to explore, and next thing you know, we find a bunch of random old backpacks, like little kid backpacks. Some were old and some were brand new, which was creepy, but there was nothing inside of them. All of them were empty. Oddly enough, we start looking around, and you looked in the corner of this little broken down shed, and there was this weird sign on the wall, obviously very old painting, like old painted sign that just said here with like an arrow down. At that point, we all kind of started freaking out a little bit, so we walked out of the shed to leave. That's when we heard like some rustling around in the woods around us out in the laurel. I was thinking it's either animals or whatever. We're conversing about it like, okay, we need to get out of here. And then out of nowhere, we literally hear like a so obviously at that point, we freaked out and like totally took off. By the time we got about like 150 feet away or whatever, we turn around to investigate the area, and we literally saw two men with hoodies. We couldn't see their face. They had their hoodies pulled up, and one of them had a in their hand. And then they walked into the shed. We wanted to stay and investigate, but we got so scared because we saw that we ended up leaving the area, and one of us ended up calling the police. The scary part about this is the police said that they were going to investigate, and we obviously told them to give us a call back, and they never gave us a call back. We never got any answers.
Story time of one of the scariest stories of my life from back when I lived in the Appalachian Mountains. So I was about 14 when this story took place, and my parents went out on a date, and my brothers were at their friends' houses, so I was alone in the house. I was already really uneasy because I just didn't like being alone, and on top of that, like, I have had like paranormal experiences in that house at this point already. So as I'm home alone, I decided that I wanted to knock out some of my chores, and one of my chores was the dishes. So, you know, I had to go to the kitchen and do the dishes and whatever. When I got there, one of the kitchen cabinets was open, and I thought that was weird, but I was just like, oh, okay, maybe one of my family members left it open. So I closed it, and then I just did the dishes. After I did the dishes, I went to my room, and I was just chilling in there for a while. After a while, I decided to go back to the kitchen to get a snack, and when I got to the kitchen, again, one of the cabinets was open. I thought that was really weird and really creepy, but then I was like, okay, I did dishes. I had to put some dishes away before I did them. So I was like, maybe I left the cabinet open. I go back to my room once again. At some point in the night, I decided that I had to go to the bathroom, but to get to the bathroom, I would have to pass the kitchen. On my way to the bathroom, I could not believe what I saw.
All
Every
the cabinets are
in
loaded.
my kitchen
Yep.
was open. For a minute, I just stood there stunned, like unable to believe my eyes. I was really scared, and I just closed all the cabinets and tried calling my parents. They weren't answering, my brothers weren't answering, and so I didn't really know what else to do. So I just decided to go take a shower and try to calm down. I get in the bathroom, and I turn the water on, and then I go across the bathroom. The type of shower that I had one of those really old like shower knobs. It was really old. It was kind of rusty, honestly, and it would squeak really loud whenever you like turned it on or off. That detail is important because you would never hear that sound unless you physically grabbed the knob of the shower and turned it on or off. So I'm turned around, the water's running, and I have my back completely to the shower. And then I hear that sound. I hear the squeak of the shower knob slowly turning, and then the shower shuts off. I was like, did that really just happen to me? I was scared. There was nobody in the bathroom with me. I was completely alone. I barely processed what had just happened, and I don't know how I did this. Like, looking back in hindsight, I really don't know how, but I just took a super fast shower, like quick as possible. I wanted to get the out of there. As I'm taking a shower,
That's the one. So if you're new to co-producer, you could really type in any
Stupid ads, boy.
I hear footsteps outside the bathroom. Now I'm thinking to myself, oh, thank God, like one of my brothers must be home or something. I get out of the shower, and there's no one in the house. At this point, I'm really scared. I'm calling all of my family members. Nobody's answering. I'm freaking out really bad. I even started to think that someone might be in the house. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen, but I still had to go to my room to get dressed. On my way to my bedroom, I could see my parents' room down the hall, and their door was cracked open. What I saw in their doorway, honestly, still haunts my nightmares. I saw a tall figure standing in the crack of their door, with its hands on the door frame, smiling at me. Trigger warning for anyone who gets scared easily. I'm about to show you guys a picture of like the closest thing I could find online to what I saw. This is kind of what
Hey, buddy.
After that, I got dressed as fast as possible, and I ran out of the house. I got so terrified that I rode my bike to my best friend's house. And even once my family was home, I did not want to go back there. But I had to, and we continued living there for a few more years. To this day, my family does not believe what I saw, which I don't know how, because we had tons of crazy paranormal experiences in that house.
Y'all want a scary story about the Appalachian Mountains? Well, buckle in, bucko. Okay, so I grew up in Virginia, and in 8th grade, I moved to Roanoke, Virginia, near the Blue Ridge
Just
Mountains.
bucko.
And if you don't know, the Blue Ridge Mountains are a subset of the entirety of the Appalachian Mountains, right? So this probably happened when I was a junior, and one of my friends had this big yellow van with a bunch of like hippie designs that she did. Like she painted the van yellow. She like painted all the hippie designs herself. That's besides the point. And she had invited me and like 5 other people to just go driving around on the parkway. And so that we did. Well, we weren't just going to go driving around. We also had weed. And so we were going to smoke too. And so we find this cute little kind of secluded area. It's still like on the road, but like it's a parking lot that's attached to the road. So you could just pull in and then like whatever. And so it was probably around 6 p.m. at night. It's the fall time. So it's not like super bright outside, but it's also not bright outside. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like it's getting dark, okay? And we were all just chilling. We were enjoying our time. Like we were having fun, whatever. And we're all in a big circle, right? In the middle of this parking lot. Or I don't want to say parking lot because it's not that, but like for lack of better words, we're going to call it a parking lot. But we're all sitting like in a circle in the parking lot, and we're just passing around. Probably had like 3 or 4 going around or whatever. And we were all just sitting there chatting, and the vibes were fine. Like, we were all cool, and everything was nice. I'm not even trying to be funny. Out of nowhere, everyone goes dead silent. And I will speak for myself and then talk about what they said later, but, like, I was overcame with such anxiety and fear. Like, it like, immediately, like, out of nowhere. Like, it was like, la, 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 la. And then all of a sudden, it was like, bam. Something's wrong. And so we're all like looking at each other, and you could tell that everyone got hit by that feeling. And so we're all talking like, what's going on? Like, what, like, did y'all feel that? Like, what is going on? And after we're like kind of settling into this feeling, we all just like get this urge to turn our head to, well, it would have been my right, but I you know, whatever. And we all literally at the same time turn our heads, and we go and look, and we see 3 tall shadow figures gliding down the mountain. Like gliding down the mountain. Like we see them through the trees, like they're gliding down the mountain. And we see them because there was this big glowing golden orb above their heads, above the middle one. And like they're literally coming at us, and I feel like we all know that they're coming at us. So without missing a beat, we all just stand up and book it. We book it for the van. I get into I did track for a little bit. Like I was in the van. I was like, oh, I left my phone, and I was like, oh my gosh, did I leave my phone? And someone was like, yeah, I grabbed your phone for you, okay? So we're like backing out of the parking lot, and I'm laying in the back, like literally terrified. And she's hitting the driver's hitting a bunch of speed bumps or whatever. And so, you know, we're all bouncing or whatever, and we're all like freaking the out in the back of this van. And we turn and look out because her like the back of her van obviously had like I don't know what it's called, like the rear view mirror, not mirror, the rear view window or whatever. We all look outside that, and the shadow figures are following us, and we all literally I start crying, and
of course you
like,
did.
Like, I don't want to, they're like, Abby, drive faster, Abby, they're coming, and she's like, I can't go any faster, like, I literally can't, we can't go any faster. And it gets to a point where, like, we ended up getting lost for a split second, but we lost the shadow figures or whatever. I'm in the back literally like, oh my god, we're literally about to get taken by demons. Like, we're literally about to get taken by the demons of the mountain. Like, the mountain demons are coming to get us. And then we finally get out into the main road, and like, she just drops us all off, and we just, like, that's that, right? The next, like, coming, like, week or 2 weeks or whatever, because we all went to the same high school, we weren't all in the same classes, and we weren't all in the same grade. It was probably like a sophomore, a few juniors, and a few seniors. And so over the coming weeks, we all like we're recapping the story, and we all like saw the same thing. We all felt the same thing, and we all heard the same like voice in our head saying, "Run, get to the van and go." And
I haven't been to the grocery store in months because this delivery service offers hundreds of high-quality, non-GMO groceries and recipes that help me.
yeah, that's that. I don't know. Literally don't know what happened. Don't know what the that was. But I think about that story sometimes, and I'm like, that was really creepy.
So over the years, me and my family, on our family vacations, have taken trips to the Appalachians. And we've stayed, we've rented out vacation cabins for like a week. Through the years, we've done that, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. And not the last time we did it, but the time before that, I'm pretty sure. We stayed at this one cabin. It had the darkest, most sinister energy of all the cabins. It wasn't that bad. It felt the most off-putting. And these cabins, you can rent out, like, huge ones. And we have gotten cabins where each one of us can have, like, our own floor. Like, there's a different bedroom on each floor, and you can choose which one. And, I was sleeping in the basement of this one. I feel like part of me chose it because it was like a challenge for me. Like, I wanted to prove that the basement wasn't scary. I was probably like 19, so like fairly grown, but you know, just a girl. And it didn't help that, like, I think this cabin was maybe like one of the oldest that we ever stayed in, or that I could tell that it was the oldest. And there was like a weird leak in my bedroom, and like the sound of like one drop of water every once in a while hitting the carpet, and then no matter what you put there, the sound is gonna be there, and just like, it was off-putting. Anyway, so one night I was getting ready to go to bed. I was in my bed. I remember, like, it was such a giant bed, and I was on the side furthest from the window, and I was just on my phone. I had the lamp on. It was somewhere between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. And I was on my phone scrolling for a while, and then I decided I was gonna turn out the light and go to sleep. And I put my phone down, and I reached for the lamp to turn it off, and I hear on the window a tapping, like an intentional tapping. It wasn't like a tree hitting the window or anything. It was an intentional tapping, like it was like a finger, like a... And so I look over toward the window, and the blinds were closed. I'm pretty sure the blinds were closed, okay? Because I didn't see anything. But I heard a night. So I heard the tapping and the night. And I was like frozen. So I just called my dad, and I was like, there is somebody out there. There's somebody right outside my window. I hear them. They're out there. He went out and looked. No one was there. There's a lot of bear activity in the Appalachians, especially around people's, trash. Like, but a bear did not do that. Are you kidding me? A bear did not do that. But the next day, my dad called the cabin rental vacation company, and he was like, yeah, was there somebody here last night? Because my daughter heard somebody outside. And they're like, yeah, there was someone there. They were picking up the trash. They showed up at the wrong time to pick up the trash. So at least they weren't trying to tell me that it was a bear. But I don't think the trash hadn't even been picked up. Like, they came that day to pick up our trash. So, like, whoever from that company had showed up to take the trash didn't even take the trash. And also, how did they show up at such an inappropriate and wrong time? How do you get it wrong by like 12 hours? Like, you should have been, like, the trash pickup time was like, I don't know, definitely during the day. Also, if you're there to pick up the trash, fine. But why were you...
Picked a great name, but your voice doesn't quite match it? We have a fix. VoiceMod gives you over 150
Why were you tapping? Why were you saying night, 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 night? So I wasn't really satisfied with their story because if it was, someone...
I
like an
don't add
employee
people
of
on
theirs,
Discord.
What were they gonna do about this? I wanted to
Appreciate the follow,
because
though.
this was so inappropriate, and it was scary for me. So who's in trouble? I wanted someone to be in trouble. I didn't hear anything else about it, but either this was a living, breathing human creep who was being really sketchy, or it was a different kind of creep who maybe was the flesh pedestrian mimic sort of thing. Something was definitely out there, and it was being really weird and sketchy. That's for sure.
All right, if you're a fan of the paranormal, then you might want to buckle up for this one. Because this one happened when
Channel. Back chat.
Very first moved down to the Appalachian Mountains. When I first moved there, I was very aware that my uncle had a pain pill problem, so it was really like normal for him to just walk off into the woods by himself and we just kind of let him do his thing. One night I got curious, okay, so I followed him and I saw that he kept going into this shed, this old shed that was in the back of our property. I didn't really think anything of it because I kind of just thought he was handling his problem, you know, doing his thing in that shed just to have his privacy, until I realized that this started happening every night. About 1 month after I moved there, I ended up going to my mom and I told her about it, and my mom was like, "What are you talking about? Your uncle has been clean off of that for about 90 days. Obviously, after that, I started to get curious, and I started following him to the shed every single night. One night, he went into the shed, and I sat back in the woods and kind of was a little creepy, but I spied on him because I wanted to see what he was doing. It was really strange. He ended up going into this shed, and all I would see from the woods is the light inside the window just turn on and off, on and off. Just over and over again for literally like about an hour. Mind you, he would do this every night for about 3 nights after that. And then one night he ended up coming home around like 1 in the morning and he was just like covered in scratches. And I figured that it was just him coming home and like walking through all the briar or something. So I thought that's what gave him all the scratches. So the next day I got really curious and I went to the shed myself to see what was going on. And when I opened the door, there was literally nothing inside this shed. Nothing. Like not a desk that he was sitting at or anything. It was just an empty shed with a light. So I went back to the house and I said something to my mom. I was like, "Mom, he's been going in this shed every single night." Lightning, whoa. He's been going into the shed every single night and like turning the lights on and off, but he's not doing anything. There's nothing in there. And then my mom started to tell me how our property, lightning. Then my mom started to tell me how our property was like, you know, haunted or whatever. And then she took me to someplace interesting. On that same trail that leads to that shed, she brought me halfway there and about 20 feet or so off the trail, she showed me a burial site. And it was a pile of rocks. We found out that our property in Franklin, North Carolina had a burial site of an old Indian chief. Now, mind you, I don't know if it had anything to do with my uncle or like a possession and sound cheesy or whatever, but I'm telling you, something wasn't right.
Here's an Appalachian horror story for you. I gotta warn you, if you're gonna be alone tonight or have to go walk outside in the dark for any reason, do not watch this one because this one is a true story. It's just the supernatural element that's up for debate. And it's the story of Casey Hathaway, the 3-year-old boy who went missing from his North Carolina grandparents' home in the Appalachian Mountains. And what just dumbfounds people is how he survived. He was missing for 3 days, and he was in a pajama onesie. This is his picture of when they found him, okay? Now, if you notice, there's no mud on the bottom of his feet. Yet, right after he went missing, it rained heavily. In fact, so much that there was so much mud that the rescuers could not navigate the woods hardly at all. Now, this is where it gets a supernatural twist. After he was found, for 3 days being missing, with a few minor scratches, but he was fed and he had been drinking because he was not dehydrated. After he was found, they said, "How did you survive?" And he goes to tell the tale of the fuzzy people that saved him.
Bigfoot.
Not fuzzy like Harry. He says fuzzy like TV static. Okay? He said they kept him company. They talked to him, though he couldn't understand them. They fed him. They watered him. Twig snapping. They fed him. They watered him. They gave him shelter. And he was found just a quarter mile away from his home after rescuers had essentially given up and assumed that he could only be dead. Because while he was missing, it was below zero. During the day, when it was above freezing, it was raining. So when it was above freezing, it was raining. So then he would have gotten hypothermia after being soaking wet. And when they found him, he was barely wet at all. Like it had shown no signs, essentially, that he had been in these elements for 3 days. They didn't think it was possible for a grown man to survive these conditions, let alone a child that was just wearing pajamas. No cold weather gear, no nothing. His family will not recount the story the same way. They say that he said it was a bear. And the first responders are like, "No, he said it was a fuzzy person. Fuzzy people took care of him." And they're like, "No, he says it's a bear." And to this day, the family recounts the story as he talks about there being a bear. So guess what? During this search, they had hunters, trappers, because they thought, maybe it was an animal. There's mountain lions in that area. There's bears in that area. No bear scat was ever found. No bear dens were ever found. And most importantly, remember how muddy it was? There was no bear footprints found. What's even stranger is Casey, the little boy, his footprints were not found either. He was just found tangled up in a thorn bush a quarter mile away from where he went missing. The rescuers and his personal family had searched that exact area literally hundreds of times. Like thousands of people were out here. They combed that area a million times. And he was so close to his home. How they found him is no one saw him. They could just hear him. He was like, hey, somebody come get me. And that's where he said the fuzzy people left him, was in this thorn bush. And you can see on that picture, if you go back, I'll put it up here again, you can see his little toe on the onesie is tore up, indicating that, yeah, he was stuck in that thorn bush. But why wasn't he muddy? If you look at photos of the rescuers, they were talking about, like, it was like knee-deep mud they're sloshing around in. They were like talking about it was the worst, sloshiest conditions ever. Yet this little boy that's been out here for 3 days, it looks like somebody's been carrying him the whole time. Kind of like how a big ape would carry their young. Kind of like how a Bigfoot would carry somebody. That's where the conspiracy theories go, is that this was a Bigfoot that abducted him or took care of him when he did wander away. Because his grandma describes him as vanishing into thin air. She took her eyes off of him for 2 minutes, boom, he's gone. Now, we know how kids are, but the whole family immediately went searching for him. And even if he was in a full dead sprint, he shouldn't have been able to get that far, right? Now, a lot of people want to say Bigfoot photographs are always fake or they're always blurry. Well, if we listen to Casey Hathaway here, what if Bigfoot are just fuzzy? Like they're not blurry in the photos because somebody's a bad photographer. What if that's just the way they appear? Because if you look at Native American folklore, they talk about how Bigfoot is not a creature of our plane of existence. He can walk into our realm and out of our realm. So light wouldn't apply to him the same way if he's coming in and out, phasing in and out. And that would also explain
That's true.
why this little boy, he might have not even been in our plane of existence anymore. He might have been back to wherever Bigfoot land is, or what that area, the Appalachian area, call the Fae. If you want to look into the story of this, the theory of this, Fae are often known for luring children. That is one of the big things they talk about with the Fae. They talk about people seeing that, like, if they get their name called, or there's like this luring music, or they might even see another child in the woods motioning for them to come here, and it lures them. And the Fae have been described notoriously as being creatures of light, or being like fuzzy or blurry, because, you know, they're not quite of our realm, so you can't see them the way you would see like an actual regular physical object. Who knows? What we do know is that a little boy survived odds that no one should have been able to survive, with relatively no repercussions at all. And he himself talks about the fuzzy people, okay? And the doctors all agree somebody had to give him food and water. So then that goes back to a lot of people saying, oh, what if he was abducted? What if this or that? Where's the footprints? The rescuer's footprints could be seen everywhere. But somehow this boy, it was like he just pooped into the thorn bush. There is no tracks for him leading to the thorn bush. There's only the tracks leading away from the thorn bush after he was found and discovered. Almost like he was dropped from the sky or dropped from a tree. Once again, the way a great ape would drop you out of a tree. So the next time you're walking in the Appalachian woods, just remember, most likely you're not walking alone.
My spooky experiences in the Appalachian Mountains. So I have a house in upstate New York, right at the edge of the Appalachian Mountains. And I've had some very strange experiences there. The experience that stuck out to me the most was when I was 16 years old. I was standing outside my door, spotlighting. I was looking for foxes, and while I was shining my light through the woods, deeper into the woods, I see this being. It was just really skin. It was like bones, and it had no eyes. It was like a grayish skin tone, and it looked at me and darted into the woods. And I got so scared that I almost dropped my spotlight. Now, I was the type of person, I always believed in ghosts, but I never believed in cryptids. And anything that I do paranormal-wise, I try to think logically first. I think, okay, maybe, like, let's just say your house creaks. Okay, your house creaks, it's old. So for me, I was thinking, okay, maybe it's just my mind playing tricks on me. You know, it's dark out, you know, and I'm shining a flashlight in the woods. Maybe it's just my mind. So, I just thought that my mind was playing tricks on me. Didn't think about it for a long time, and then one time I was listening to a podcast, and somebody was saying, telling a story about them stumbling upon this being, and it was similar to my story, and that's when I got really creeped out. Now, side note, in the morning when I was up there, I looked into the woods, and a lot of the tree branches and the bushes, they looked like they've been like messed with, like somebody was running through them. So I thought about that years later. I was like, oh my god, I actually saw this. Like, this wasn't my imagination. I really saw it. So I was trying to figure out what this being was, and I finally came to the conclusion that it was what I thought it was. I'm not going to say the name, and I'm just going to leave it at that, and that really creeped me out. So now every time I go to my house in upstate, I always shut the blinds. I don't go outside when it's dark out. I don't look out the window, none of that. I haven't seen this being in years, and none of my family members have seen it, so I don't know, but I am not taking any risks here. So yeah, I do follow the rules of Appalachia. You know, look it up if you don't know the rules. It's pretty basic, but you know, it is, Appalachia can be very scary, and like in my previous, one of my previous videos, I said I will not explore the Appalachian regions, and I will not do it because there are a lot of scary things there. Also, another memory did emerge that when I was about 8 or 9, we were in the woods riding quads, and I saw that being again, peeking from behind a tree, and then one time when we were driving away, I turned and I saw the being running across the path. So yeah, I don't really go into those woods anymore. I mean, we do hike the trails, but again, we stay on the trails.
Okay, so I have a question for anybody who lives in West Virginia, specifically like the rural parts, if you can tell me if this is normal or not, because I still find it really creepy. Now, backstory, no, my family nor I have ever heard the woods go silent, and I mean dead silent, not a cricket, not a peep. I've never heard that before in my life. Well, my family and I have gone on 2 vacations now to West Virginia. The first time we stayed in a cabin in Watauga State Park, and it was like 10 p.m. We're doing a bonfire, and I mean this place is in the boonies. Like, there's no cell service, no nothing. Bonfire at like 10 p.m. and all of a sudden, after about 10 minutes, my parents are like, do you hear that? I'm like, no. They say, exactly. The woods are completely silent. And they're creeped out. I'm really creeped out. I'm like, okay, now I feel weird. The hair on my arms is standing up. Y'all can stay out here. I'm gonna go back inside. So that night, I slept in the living room. And the windows didn't really have much shade on them, so you can kind of see right in. And all night, I felt like I was being watched. It was the creepiest thing ever. The next morning, we go to the souvenir shop before we leave for the state park. And I asked one of the troopers, I think it's state, yeah, whatever. I asked one of them, and I'm like, hey, why were the woods silent last night? She's like, I don't know. Like, a lot of people say that happens, but I don't really know why. She's like, it's just pretty common around here.
It does happen a lot.
What the do you mean it's common? I mean, maybe I'm just a wuss, but to me, that's pretty weird. So I just kind of got the heebie-jeebies from that. And then obviously we come home, and then just about a month and a half ago, we go back to West Virginia. This time we're staying kind of near Helvetia, which is again middle of nowhere, boonies. So staying in this cabin, woods are silent again. And then throughout the course of the night, my mom kept hearing the sound of a man talking outside the window. There was nobody there. Nobody was there. And it was to the point where she was texting me, my siblings and I, saying hey, are y'all awake? We were dead asleep, and she just heard a man's voice talking. Anyway, the woods are silent there. Things outside like to talk. Is that a normal occurrence? I don't know.
Okay,
yeah.
So I have no idea what exactly it was that we saw that night. My friends and I go camping a lot, and our favorite place is the Red River Gorge here in eastern Kentucky. It's the closest place to where I live where you can see the Milky Way pretty much every single night. Our first experiences night hiking, we would go to trails that we knew well and were frequently used during the day. Ones with lots of fences and gazebo resting places like the Natural Bridge, which is a 2 to 4 mile hike uphill just depending on your starting point. Hiking on this trail at night is not allowed, but it's the woods, and I've never been one to care much about closing times for the literal outside. This night was weird to begin with. Almost as soon as we got going on the hike, the clouds started taking over, and we started to get the impression that we were going stargazing at pretty much nothing. But we went anyways, just in case it cleared out by the time we got up to the top, because you just never know with Kentucky weather. In the beginning, it was just the normal paranoia that was keeping us so stressed and quiet. You know you've reached the bottom of the bridge when you see a giant wall of limestone. It's after hours at this point, so no skylift rides have gone on for hours. And the Rangers had already done their sweep and left right before we got out of the car and headed up. I guess I have to make these points because this is what I was thinking to myself when, like, out of nowhere, a girl appeared with a headlamp. And she begins to walk down the trail that we're looking out at. She was in a sundress and flip-flops. And while this is a fairly easy hike, it wouldn't be easy with no water or no real shoes, especially after dark. Her light was bright, and when she reached to where the trail turned down to where we were sitting, she just stopped. She just stood there straight on. She was just sitting there staring at all of us, and I had to bring, like, my arm up to shield my eyes from the light because it was so bright. It was shining, like, directly in my eyes. She didn't turn away from our lights at all or even seem to be bothered that she had 6 LED lamps shining right in her eyes. I said hello, and she kind of replied, but with, like, a pause between every single word, something like, hello, how are you? I said, I'm good, how are you? And she took even longer pauses, and she was like, oh,
It's not a person.
fine. She then just stood there with her hands to her side and just staring at us. Her light made it impossible to see her face, and I had my hand up the entire time because her light was just so bright. Until finally she just turned and slowly walked down the trail part that we had just came up from. She got to a part where the trail, like, turned, and we could see her light, like, just stopped there for a minute until she turned and the light faded out of sight. After that, we waited a little while before we headed on up. I made comments about how weird that just was, and everybody just made it out to me being always afraid. So we got up after a bit, and we started back up to the top. We laid down, and we tried to stargaze, but the clouds were even thicker at this time, and we were all miserably hot. We could hear voices at times, and my friend kept checking for the people that we heard. We saw a flashlight, and we never saw anyone attached to it. And then we heard, like, a bird call. But it wasn't like a real bird noise. It was like some person doing bird calls. Like rhythmic and not really natural at all. I was convinced that we weren't alone and hadn't been alone, but I'm the most easily spooked. I asked to leave whenever they were ready, and they were all ready to leave right then and there, which kind of scared me too. You know, just knowing that they're all just as afraid as I am at this point. We began going back downhill the same way that we came up, but it felt like it was taking so long. We were moving steady and quick, and it was all downhill, but it felt like we were making no grounds at all. It's hard to explain, but at one point I even said this feels much longer than the way up, and they all agreed. Okay, so now we're walking in like a semi-flattish area, at least compared to the downhill that we had been doing. The handrail or the wooden fence or whatever it is all on the left side of us. We're all walking in a row when all of a sudden my friend says, "What's that?" But the question was more of like an alert, so I moved my headlamp in that direction, and I don't see anything at first. At the same time, all 6 of our lights start to shine and like reflect off of a light gray creature. It's bent in a crouching position, sitting on its right leg, and it starts to turn towards us. It starts to stand up, but my mind is like racing at this point. It almost looks human, but it's too big. It's tall and thin, and it was so light gray that it was almost white, and its skin almost resembled dolphin skin. Like, it has a shine to it, like it reflects in the light when our headlamps hit it. It's gradually coming to a full standing position in front of us. Its head is long, and its eyes are in like a human position on the front of its face, like not like an animal, like on the side of its face. I couldn't see any other facial features, almost just big empty holes or pits for its eyes. Its arms hung down low by its knees, and its hands seemed to be long too. I'm gonna guess it stood at like 9 feet or so tall, and it was right there in front of us. It had no hair, like at all. And it had a big head. Like, I couldn't process what I was seeing. I was just frozen, and I felt my friend hitting me, just saying, "Run, run, run." I start to understand that we have to get away from this thing, and that's when it pivots and runs to the right, going backwards along the trail so it can get around the barrier and get on the trail behind us. We took off running down the trail, knowing in our minds that that thing took off a lot faster than we did. It didn't talk at all, because when we tried, it felt like we were going to get caught. We kept running just as fast as we could, but some areas were just so steep. It never felt like we were out of the sight of this creature, not even for a second. As we we made it to the trailhead with like the gravel, we could hear something crashing down in the forest beside us. We all just ran as fast as we could and jumped in the car, and we drove down the road just as fast as we could until we got to the main road, and then the sky cleared up, and then the stars came out.
These woods have been.
Alright, chat, that's it for tonight. I hope you have a blessed night.